You see, evil rarely comes with a warning label. It does not introduce itself with a thunderstorm or a villain's laugh. More often, it wears the most attractive disguise: a warm smile, an attentive gaze, a way of making you feel like you're the only person in the room who matters. These individuals understand something fundamental about human nature. We are wired to respond positively to charm. And that is precisely why they use it as their most powerful weapon. A charming manipulator studies you like a subject in a laboratory. They watch your reactions, learn your preferences, and mirror your values, not because they share them, but because they know it will win your trust. Their compliments are never random. They are calculated, designed to touch that part of you that craves recognition. They notice the details others overlook, but not because they truly care. They're gathering data, building a psychological map of your desires, fears, and insecurities. And when the time is right, they'll use that map to lead you exactly where they want you to go. The danger lies in the fact that nothing feels threatening at first. In fact, it feels quite the opposite. It feels good, it feels affirming. And because we all long to be seen and valued, we don't easily question the sincerity of someone who seems to offer both so freely. But make no mistake, what they offer is not a gift. It's bait. And every interaction is another thread in the web they are spinning around you. The manipulator understands the subtle art of reciprocity. If they do something for you, you feel the unspoken obligation to give something in return: your time, your resources, your loyalty. And here's the catch: you won't even realize you're paying the price until it's too late. Their greatest strength is that they don't need to force you to comply. You'll walk into the trap willingly, convinced it was your own choice. From a psychological perspective, this works because charm creates what is called a halo effect. When someone appears warm, confident, and agreeable, we subconsciously assume they possess other good qualities as well: honesty, integrity, competence. We overlook inconsistencies. We excuse questionable behavior. We rationalize red flags because, well, they've always been so nice to me. This is where the real danger lies, not in their actions alone, but in our willingness to protect the image they've created in our minds. And here's the philosophical truth about this type of evil: their power does not come from force, but from consent. They gain influence because we allow it. We hand them the keys to our trust without demanding they earn it. And why? Because they make us feel special. But here's a reality check. Being made to feel special is not the same as being valued. One is a tactic, the other is a truth. I've often wondered why some of the most intelligent, capable people fall prey to charming manipulators. And I've realized it's because intelligence doesn't immunize you against emotional hunger. You can be a genius in your field and still crave affirmation, still long for connection, still want someone to notice your worth. These individuals are masterful at identifying that hunger and feeding it, just enough to keep you coming back for more. But let's be honest, charm in itself is not evil. It becomes dangerous when it is used as a mask, when it is paired with a hidden agenda. The problem isn't that someone is kind or attentive. The problem is when that kindness is conditional, strategic, and ultimately self-serving. And unfortunately, you will rarely see the mask slip until they no longer need it. So how do you protect yourself? You learn to separate how someone makes you feel from who they truly are. You pay attention not just to their words, but to the consistency of their actions over time. You notice how they treat people who can do nothing for them. You watch whether they respect your boundaries when saying no doesn't serve their plans. And you remember that charm is not proof of character. It is merely an introduction. You owe it to yourself to protect your trust like a precious resource, because that's exactly what it is. Once given away freely to the wrong person, it is hard to reclaim, not just from them, but from yourself. The manipulator's greatest theft is not your money or opportunities. It is your self-belief, your ability to trust your own judgment. And that is why recognizing them early is so important. Because here's the truth: the charming manipulator is not powerful because they are inherently stronger, smarter, or better than you. They are powerful because they have mastered the art of appearing harmless. And the moment you see through that illusion, their power over you begins to crumble. Never forget, genuine connection does not require constant performance. Real kindness does not demand a return on investment. True friends, true partners, true leaders, they do not need to charm you into loyalty. They earn it through authenticity, consistency, and respect. So the next time someone's charm feels almost too perfect, don't rush to judgment, but don't rush to trust either. Let time reveal whether the glow they bring into your life is the light of sincerity or the glare of a spotlight meant to blind you. Because sometimes the sweetest smile hides the sharpest knife, and your greatest protection will always be the courage to see past the shine. Remember this. Trust is a gift and like all gifts, it should be given wisely. The wrong hands will use it to bind you, the right hands will use it to hold you. Choose carefully. You've met them before. They are the ones who seem to live under a permanent cloud, narrating their life as an endless string of injustices and betrayals. Of every failed relationship is the other person's fault. Every missed opportunity was stolen by someone less deserving. Of every obstacle is evidence that the universe is conspiring against them. And at first you feel sympathy, because who wouldn't? They speak with such sincerity, such emotion that you can't help but want to comfort them. But over time, something shifts. You notice the pattern. They are always the wronged party, never the responsible one. In every story, they are the hero or the helpless victim, never the one who made a mistake, never the one who needed to change. This is where their subtle form of manipulation lies. By positioning themselves as perpetually wounded, they create an unspoken rule: you must handle them with care, excuse their behavior, and lower your expectations. After all, they've been through so much. The danger is that this dynamic doesn't just ask for compassion, it demands it. And if you don't comply, if you ever suggest that they might share in the responsibility for their situation, you'll quickly become the next villain in their story. This is how they control the people around them, not through threats, but through emotional leverage. They weaponize empathy. They make you feel guilty for having boundaries, for saying no, for expecting them to contribute equally to a relationship. From a psychological perspective, the perpetual victim thrives on what is called secondary gain. This means that even though their situation seems undesirable, they are receiving hidden benefits from it: attention, care, exemption from accountability, and perhaps most dangerously, the avoidance of personal growth. If you're always the victim, you never have to face your own flaws. You never have to admit you played a role in your own suffering. You never have to change. But there's a deeper philosophical truth here. By living in the role of the victim, they also live in a constant state of powerlessness. And yet, paradoxically, they wield immense power over others, because those who care for them feel obligated to rescue them, to carry their burdens, to make it right. You become trapped in a cycle where your empathy is no longer a gift, it's a leash, and they're the ones holding it. The most deceptive part of this type is that their harm is not always intentional. Some genuinely believe the world is against them. They have internalized the idea that life is something that happens to them, not something they participate in shaping. But intentional or not, the effect on you is the same, so you get drawn into their orbit, constantly giving, constantly accommodating, until you realize you've been standing still in your own life while carrying the weight of theirs. I want you to think about the cost of staying close to someone who refuses to step out of victimhood. You start making their problems your problems. You start neglecting your needs because theirs always seem more urgent. You start silencing your frustrations because you know they will react with hurt, not accountability. Slowly, without realizing it, you trade your peace for their comfort. And once that trade becomes a habit, it is very hard to reverse. There's also a societal element here. We are taught to help those in need, to stand by those who suffer. And that's a beautiful thing when the person is genuinely trying to get back on their feet. But when someone is invested in staying down, your help doesn't lift them, it anchors you. And the irony is, by constantly rescuing them, you reinforce their belief that they are helpless. You're not just enabling them, you're validating their story. The question then becomes, how do you protect yourself without losing your compassion? The answer is not to shut your heart, but to strengthen your boundaries. You can offer empathy without becoming an emotional crutch. You can listen without always solving. And most importantly, you can refuse to participate in their narrative if it requires you to deny the truth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say, I believe in your ability to handle this, and step back. Because here's the thing, real healing begins when a person takes ownership of their life. And ownership can't be given. It has to be claimed. If someone refuses to claim it, no amount of your effort will fill the gap. You cannot walk someone out of a prison they have locked from the inside. So be mindful of the relationships in your life where the balance is always tipped toward their needs, their crises, their emotions. Notice if the word sorry never leaves their lips unless it's followed by an excuse. Pay attention to whether they make space for your struggles or if every conversation somehow circles back to theirs. These are signs you are not in a mutual exchange. You are in a performance. And you've been cast as the supporting character in their endless tragedy. You are not obligated to play that role. And you are certainly not selfish for stepping away from someone who refuses to stand. Compassion is not measured by how much of yourself you sacrifice. It is measured by how much truth you're willing to stand in, even when that truth is uncomfortable. So the next time you find yourself pulled into the gravity of someone's constant misfortune, pause and ask, am I helping them rise? Or am I holding their ladder while they refuse to climb? Because you are here to live your own story, not to become a permanent character in someone else's victimhood. Remember this, empathy is sacred, but without boundaries it becomes captivity. Protect your heart, or it will be used to build someone else's cage. Unlike the charming manipulator or the perpetual victim, this one rarely steps into the spotlight. They don't announce their intentions, and they almost never confront directly. Instead, they operate in shadows, working quietly, methodically, to erode your confidence, your reputation, and sometimes even your opportunities, without leaving fingerprints behind. The silent saboteur understands the subtlety of destruction. They know that outright attacks draw attention and provoke defenses, but small, almost invisible cuts. Those are harder to detect, and over time they can bleed you dry. Maybe it's the way they forget to pass along important information you needed. Maybe it's the way they subtly exclude you from a conversation or a meeting where your voice should have been heard. Maybe it's the way they plant tiny seeds of doubt in others, just enough to make people question your abilities without being able to trace it back to them. And because their actions are so quiet, you start to question your own perception. Was it really intentional? Maybe it was just an oversight. Maybe I'm imagining it. That's exactly where they want you, unsure, hesitant, second-guessing yourself. Because as long as you doubt your instincts, you won't take action to protect yourself. From a psychological standpoint, this is a form of covert aggression. It's hostility disguised as negligence, incompetence, or even politeness. The saboteur knows how to hide behind plausible deniability. I didn't realize you weren't copied on that email. Or, I thought someone else had already told you. Or, I was just trying to help. Each excuse sounds reasonable in isolation, but the pattern, once you notice it, reveals intent. The reason this type is so dangerous is that they don't attack your body or your possessions. They attack your credibility. And credibility, once damaged, is hard to rebuild. The silent saboteur knows that if they can make others hesitate about trusting you, their work is done. They don't need to destroy you entirely. They just need to plant enough doubt that opportunities start passing you by. Philosophically, I think the silent saboteur reveals something dark about human nature. Not all harm comes from open enemies. Sometimes it comes from the person who smiles at you in public and chips away at you in private. And because they don't seek confrontation, that they can maintain the appearance of being nice or supportive to the outside world. It's a mask so convincing that if you ever point out their behavior, you risk looking paranoid or overly sensitive. One of the most common mistakes people make with this type is waiting for undeniable proof before acting. But the silent saboteur rarely gives you that luxury. They deal in subtlety precisely so you can't catch them in the act. The truth is, you may never get a confession or a clear piece of evidence. All you may have are patterns, and those patterns are enough if you're willing to trust them. But here's something important to understand. Not all silent sabotage is malicious. Sometimes it's rooted in insecurity or envy. They might undermine you because your success reminds them of their own perceived shortcomings. They might fear being overshadowed, so they chip away at your light to make themselves feel taller. The intent might not be to destroy you completely, but to level the playing field in their favor. And yet, the impact is the same. Your growth stalls while they quietly advance. So how do you protect yourself? The first step is to pay attention to patterns, not isolated incidents. One missed message could be an accident. 10 missed messages all at critical moments is a strategy. One forgotten invitation could be oversight. Repeated exclusions from important circles is deliberate. When you see the pattern, you can adjust your approach. Not with retaliation, but with awareness and boundaries. Keep your communication clear, documented, and as public as possible. Follow up important conversations with written confirmations. Share information widely so it can't be intercepted or forgotten. And perhaps most importantly, build relationships outside the influence of the saboteur. The more people know you directly, the harder it is for someone to distort your image from the shadows. From a philosophical lens, the lesson here is simple but powerful. Silence is not always peace. Some of the most harmful battles you will face in life will be waged quietly, with smiles and polite words masking the damage being done behind the scenes. Your defense is not paranoia, it's vigilance. It's learning to trust your instincts even when they whisper instead of shout. You may never get the satisfaction of confronting a silent saboteur and hearing them admit the truth. But you can take away their influence by refusing to operate blindly. Awareness is the light they cannot work under. And once you stop giving them the shadows they need, their power fades. So remember, while loud enemies test your courage, it's the quiet ones who test your clarity. The challenge is to see what isn't meant to be seen, to hear what isn't openly said, and to act before the damage becomes irreversible. Because in life, not every knife is swung in open air. Some are slipped gently between your ribs while their owner smiles into your eyes. Learn to feel the pressure before the blade goes in. That's how you survive the silent ones.